Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Drinks and Movies with your hosts, Bearded Comic Bro and John from John's Comics with Kids. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up for Drinks and Movies.
Yeah, gang. Been a hot minute since we've had that theme song. It's only been a few weeks, actually. We took a big break, and now we're back for more trouble, more shenanigans. And if you've been watching Instagram, some in-person hangout time. I'm talking about me and the Bearded Comic Bro.
What up? What up? So good, dude.
That I like having the screen back again.
I miss it. I miss getting to just be in person. But if
sit on a couch, have some cookie dough.
So good, some edible cookie dough. Just in our matching tees. It was a good day.
I'm saying our jammies, our smut, everything.
So good. You can't beat that. You can't beat it.
Well, it's good to see you, my friend. And if people don't know Greg, the Bearded Comic Bro, then you haven't been following too close to the channel, or you're new. Either way, let's make sure we rectify that by hitting the link down below, subscribing to one of the guys who does the best interviews with comic book creators on YouTube. If you want to know about what's coming to your shops, which creators are making fire comics, this is the guy to be following for those things. So be sure you're following the Bearded Comic Bro.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's say hello to some friends in the chat because we already got three comments, and they are all Val Kilmer quotes from movies that he was in. Derek, first off, with "I'll Be Your Huckleberry," which I actually saw a little, TikTok on the fact that it might be Hucklebearer, which was like the name of somebody who would carry the handles on your casket, which is called a huckle. So, like, the idea is that he's saying, like, I will carry you to your grave. Like,
but
I don't know. There was a theory.
His memoir says "I'm your Huckleberry," so that's what it's titled. So
there you go. May just have been a conspiracy TikTok.
John, not everything on the internet's true.
I mean, especially not on TikTok, I suppose. We got a Doors quote here by our guy, White Tiger Ruben Guzman, in the chat. He's saying just a little low-grade acid. That's all it is. Just a little low-grade acid. And then we've got JP throwing out a quote from Real Genius, which is an early second, in fact, motion picture by Val Kilmer. This is ice. It's what happens to water when the molecules get too cold. This is Kent. It's what happens to a person when they get too sexually frustrated. It's a great movie, great line. And sadly, it's not. I don't think it's on any streaming services right now, because I did spend the day watching 2 Val Kilmer movies. I was looking around for some of his early stuff.
Ooh, I wonder if we watched the same stuff.
Yeah, couldn't find Real Genius. I have a feeling we watched one of the same things. Did we both watch Batman Forever? Because I did.
I did not, actually, because and only for this, it would have not added to the conversation at all, because I've seen it so many times that I wanted to refresh my memory on some that I haven't remembered or stuff like that. So that's the only reason.
I hadn't seen it in about a year, maybe a little over a year, and ultimately the 2 times I've watched it in the last
shows with us.
Yeah, it had to be because of this
the Batman rewatch show, and then the Joel Schumacher tribute.
So really, other than that, it had been a long while before that, but then it was kind of fun to see it. Yeah. So me and the girls were all watching it. And they were like, "Is this the one with Catwoman?" I'm like, "No, it's not the one with Catwoman." "Is this the one with the better Joker?" "No, it's not the one with the better Joker." I had to walk them through which one was this until it started rolling, and then they're remembering little things as we went along.
Yeah.
What is it?
That was the first one I wanted to watch when I heard about his passing, and I just didn't. And then once I knew we were doing the show, I put some others in the queue first.
The other one that I watched today was Willow. So I was over on the Disney Plus. Disney Plus had Willow, and of course HBO has all the Batman stuff.
Yeah. So, I did not revisit Willow, but
all right. So I watched 2. What were the 2 that you watched?
So I watched. What did I watch? Oh, last night I watched Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Nice.
So good. And then I watched one of my all-time most underrated Val Kilmer movies of The Saint.
Oh, and you know what? JP was calling out Top Secret in The Saint, so there it is.
So I watched The Saint this afternoon. I told the girls to go play on your tablets. I need to watch The Saint. I phoned in the parenting so I could bring content to y'all tonight.
See, that's what we want Greg for. Yeah, that one. The only thing that irks me about that movie is I don't know that I buy Elizabeth Shue as a nuclear physicist, but everything else, I think I can believe in that.
You know, yeah, but that's also like, isn't that the era of all the cold fusion movies? Like Keanu Reeves,
cold fusion hottie scientists. Too.
It was like Keanu Reeves was in like Chain Reaction like a year before that, and I feel like Chris O'Donnell had something too.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
it was that era. Yes, I have not watched that one in a hot minute too. It's probably been a couple of years since I watched that one.
And it is not streaming, and I was really frustrated and
had to bust out the disc.
No, because all my DVDs and Blu-rays are in boxes right now.
Oh,
so my wife looked over. She said, "Spend the money on Val." So I bought it. So I now own it digitally too. So,
I mean, I have the discs for most of the ones we've mentioned now. So I could easily have thrown in the disc for like Real Genius or whatever, but part of me was like, nope, let's just keep perusing. And Willow, I had not seen in genuinely like a handful of years. It had been a while. So I was kind of excited for that. Yeah. So folks, welcome back to the Drinks and Movies show, the live stream with me and Greg, where we're looking over a topic about movies that we feel like we want to discuss. Most recently, we were discussing Gene Hackman, James Earl Jones, some Donald Sutherland's great actors from last year who passed away. And of course, when Val passed, it was like the first thing that I think Greg sent me was like, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
we need to get in on this.
Well, I mean, he's such a quintessential actor, an important person in my life of enjoying movies. You know, like, not to be controversial, but like, you know, he's my Batman, and I know it's different for everyone has their own Batman. And I mean, in the last, couple years, I've lost both my Batman, right? Like Kevin Conroy and Val Kilmer were my Batman.
Sure.
And so like, that is, if you know anything about me, yes, I talk about Super Pro all the time. And yes, I talk about Dick Tracy, but Batman is my gateway into comics and pop culture and stuff.
Yeah.
So like, Batman is my first obsession through and through. So I was like, we got to talk about Val Kilmer again. Like, I don't care how many times I have to talk about Batman Forever. I will
do it. And then we've talked about it several times on this show when we were talking about a lot of different particular topics, like you mentioned. So yeah, when you reached out, I was like, well, yes, this is absolutely needs to happen. And to your point, I think he's one of those cornerstones of the, 80s and 90s for film and I think that was an era when both of us were really big into movies. And so I think as a result had a big impact on enjoyment on all the big films of the day, and was really one of those notable Juilliard trained performers to really crash onto the scene as a not, I don't want to say method actor, but certainly an actor of a very high caliber.
Right.
We got some more friends in the chat. We got Agu. Yeah. I'm about an hour or so, depending on where LA is quite vast. I'm about an hour or so south of LA, but I'm definitely in that general vicinity. What is going on, Kenneth Bird? Hello from California to Virginia and from Ohio. God damn it.
Do you almost say Missouri?
I almost said it because I was looking at JP's name.
Donnie's we got both the same look, so I get it. So
he says he watched Batman Forever with his wife last week for the first time in over 15 years.
Wow. That's on a rewatch at least yearly, if not more, for me. So I'd love to know if you haven't watched it in 15 years, what your thoughts are, because I know I look at it with rose tinted glasses and I'm okay with that.
Well, and I kind of feel like I'd like to start with Batman. Usually these shows go chronological, and I think we'll spend like a little bit of that.
Disservice for Val to do chronological because we can do it so many different ways. So let's do it. Let's start Batman Forever.
Well, and you had mentioned that he post Kiss Kiss Bang Bang really struggled and did not have a ton of really memorable, great movies in that 2005 to the end. And so in that way, it's really, 84 to 2005 is what we're kind of talking about, a 20-year period of the most noteworthy films that he created. But yeah, let's jump into Batman, because I think in his mind, maybe it was a role that he wouldn't want to be remembered for, or it wasn't really something that he cared passionately about.
No.
In fact, he turned down Batman and Robin when they offered a ton of money to him, because it was a big success. Batman Forever was a big moneymaker, but I think he did it out of kindness to Joel Schumacher more than anything else, as like let me help, because Michael Keaton bailed and Joel was like, look, I need somebody. As far as I know, that's what I had heard.
Well, what I've heard, and first and foremost, if you're watching this, and you want to remember Val Kilmer, two jamokes are going to talk about him best we can. But one of the best things you can do is go on Amazon Prime right now and watch the documentary Val. I did rewatch that too before this show. It is when he has his throat cancer and his son's narrating it, and it goes through kind of chronologically his film career, his time at Juilliard, his history with his family and his dad, and and how some of those family situations helped him make decisions that he decided to make and things like that. But I say all that, go watch it. And then, but here's the thing,
but it's also got that wonderful found footage, because he shot so much stuff.
He had
on all of his sets, and he was basically using his behind the scenes footage from his video cameras and his film cameras and whatever he could get his digital cameras from all the sets that he was on. And it's this fun personal, autobiography in a way.
Yeah. It's really cool. But I say all that because in talking about Batman Forever, he mentioned in the documentary that, every kid wanted to be Batman when they grew up, and, he wanted to be Batman. And when he was offered the role of Batman, he was in Africa at some point in a literal bat cave. And he was like, it's a sign. This is what I want to do. And I think he really did want to do the role, but the problem is he felt like he couldn't act. And for someone who was
in the suit,
because all you could see is the mouth. You can't move in that suit. Those, that's always been the thing. Look at Batman in Batman 89, him trying to kick and fight in that suit. It's very awkward and stiff. It didn't get better in, Batman Returns or Batman Forever, really. And so he almost felt like he was just there in a bat suit and couldn't really act, where Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey got to just chop up the scenery. For him, he felt he couldn't, because he said he approached it like it was a soap opera, really, how he would do his moves and stuff, because he couldn't physically turn his neck and things like that. So he almost had to do the exaggerated turns when he was talking to Nicole Kidman and stuff like that. Dr. Chase Meridian, aka my first crush I ever had.
That's not a bad one.
So I take that back. It was probably Madonna, but in As Breathless Mahoney, but Chase Meridian was right up there. So I think
you married your redhead, so you got your Chase Meridian.
Right. I did. Trust me. So I think he wanted to, but I think it's just as one of those sad, unfortunate things. It just didn't. And so he turned down the role of Batman and Robin so he could take the Saint, because he felt like there was he could play so many different characters in the role of the Saint. Yeah. And he could act. And as someone who, like you said, Juilliard trained, he wanted to be an actor. I don't think he felt Batman Forever allowed him to have that opportunity.
Sure. And it resulted in one of his biggest successes, but I think he definitely was not he didn't seem to look back on it with a ton of love, because as a job, it was very complicated and stressful and frustrating, and not necessarily a joy-filled experience. Although he seemed like he remained somewhat close to guys like Tommy Lee Jones and Joel Schumacher afterwards.
Well, and I also wonder too, being one of his biggest blockbusters, was there animosity? He didn't say it in the movie, in the documentary, but ever since he turned it down, like it was one of his most successful movies, and he didn't really have a hit since. Like like at that caliber.
Sure.
I'm not saying Batman and Robin would have done been at that, but I don't know. Like does that change the dynamics? Does it change the movie? If it's not George Clooney and stuff like that, and
sure,
do they go as silly as they go? I don't know, but.
Yeah, no, I mean it's definitely a question. What would Batman and Robin have been like had Val stayed in? Let's talk about Forever though. What Val brought to it, because Charlie, when I was watching it again with her, she's like, he's a really great Bruce Wayne. Like her comment was that she loved the Bruce Wayne out of costume scenes, and it seems to be the most, in my opinion, the Bruce and Batman combo that is most like aligned, meaning you don't get this stark I'm a different person as Batman than I am as Bruce. The whole plot seems to be aligning those two halves of who he is and bringing them, so they seem to be much closer together than say some of the other, obviously the Michael Keatons or whatever.
Yeah, and we've talked about this when we talk about Batman a lot, right? Like you have Bruce Wayne, who he is, you have Batman, and then you have who people suspect Bruce Wayne should be, right? So you almost have three versions of Bruce Wayne to play. Like Christian Bale played the billionaire playboy there. Same with George Clooney. He played that kind of playboy billionaire a lot more, where Michael Keaton and Val Kilmer played more like, I think you saw the real Bruce Wayne in their Bruce Wayne portrayals. But I do think this is the one where Batman and Bruce Wayne aren't as separate, right? Like, and they really play into that with the love interest of Dr. Chase Meridian, right? Like, does she love Batman? Does she love Bruce Wayne? And is Bruce in love with her? Is it Batman in love with her? And so it is more of one character through and through. And I think what I really appreciated, like Charlie said in that, like, you get to see him act, right? Like he has these moments with Chris O'Donnell, Val Kilmer's trying to figure out how to be a role model, right? Like to someone who doesn't really want him to. And, the kind of playful banter that like, and the quick wittedness that Bruce Wayne has, like one of my favorite scenes is that opening scene where Chris O'Donnell comes to the mansion and you have Val Kilmer is there and he's talking to him about like, oh, you like motorcycles outside. And he's like, well, you might want to gas up before you go in. And you're like, oh my goodness.
You go to a lot of biker bars, Bruce. He's like so sarcastic about it.
And it's like, you got the one, he's like, oh, this is a such and such bike. He's like, only like 8 of these are made. He's like 9.
He says only 100, 101 actually. Yeah. And then I got 2.
I was like, I own 2.
Yeah. It's a great scene. And it's
the smartness.
It's like all that reverse psychology that he's throwing at a young kid that he knows I can't tell him what to do. I've got to just show him opportunities, and then he's either going to take it or he's going to bail on it. And I've just got to present them. So he does his best to try to like engage with him on a few different levels, and everything fails until he's like sees the bike and he's like, you know what, maybe there's an in here. So I really, that's easily my favorite, I think, dialogue scene in the movie.
And then you throw in Alfred right at the end, like, oh, yeah, pity. I guess I'll feed these to the dogs. And he's like, ow, wait up.
Yeah, it's a beautiful burger with like onion rings on top, and it's like, Alfred just whipped that up in the kitchen a little bit ago.
But but that's also like the Bruce and Alfred dynamic that you saw Val Kilmer there of like, playing off of it. And I thought, for me, I remember as a kid, so this came out in 95. So I was 10 years old, and, to see Batman as someone, my mom always said my first word was Batman. Like she swears to it. I can't tell you if it's true or not, obviously, but like my grandma and grandpa used to tape the 66 TV show off cable and send me VHS tapes so I could have it. So like I love for Batman, but there's something special when you finally, as a kid who adored Batman for 10 years, to then get to see live action Batman on the big screen. Cause and this was my first live action Batman. Cause I never, besides Adam West, cause I wasn't allowed to see Batman 89 and I wasn't allowed to see Batman Returns when I was a kid. Cause I think that came out in 92 and I was like 7 and my mom was like, no, it's too grotesque for you. Like, and so I remember just sitting in awe, seeing Batman on the big screen, and like that forever has been a permanent happy memory in my life of just getting to that. And that's why I'm drinking my bourbon out of my Batman Forever
There it
McDonald's glass.
I love it.
So
Agu says chicks dig the car.
they do.
It is the car. Conlin's in the chat. What's going on, Conlin? Good to see you. And Night Tiger is in the chat. He just did a great giveaway recently for a ton of Golden Age books, but a great discussion in and around GoldenAge comics. It's good to see you, sir. And Tombstone, yes, we will get.
Yes, we will.
You can guarantee. You can guarantee
with this.
And I think to your point about Batman movies, I think this is one that I think does the really tricky job of aligning Tim Burton's aesthetic and what he had set up over 2 movies and Adam West's era and what they had set up over that TV series, because this is a meld of those 2 things, in my opinion. And we were joking at one point, not joking, my daughters and I, while we were watching it, I said, wow, that set looks amazing. And the girls chimed in. They were like, all the sets look incredible in this. They were commenting on how well, photographed, lit, designed, and, decorated these sets were. And they had that, Batman 66, whatever vibe. They had that like really pastel, bright kind of color scheme, the fun, wicked, like camera angle, switch it arounds. But it also had that kind of campy, dialogue at times. But at the same time, it felt still true to Tim Burton's era. And of course, there were several actors who carried over from the other films for Commissioner Gordon and for Alfred. But it still felt true to what Tim was trying to do and some of the Gothic aesthetic that he was going for. It was an interesting amalgam, and it worked for me because I think, like you, I had grown up with Adam West. I had seen what Michael Keaton had done and what Tim Burton had done, and this brought it all together. And I had a blast watching this in the theater as a young man. And I was working at a movie theater when this came out, so I heard that soundtrack on repeat. Kiss from a Rose. I heard that U2
Method Man,
song.
The Riddler, Hold Me, Throw Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me.
Yeah.
The Flaming Lips.
So for me, like, there was a lot of the aesthetic that I really enjoyed. I get that it is campier than maybe people want their Batman. And certainly nowadays, when everything seems to be built on how violent, how dark, how brooding can we make the character, it's a fun palate cleanser to go back and enjoy this alternative, because the Batman I grew up with didn't wear black. He wore gray, yellow, and bright blue. Like, that was that Neil Adams, whatever, Jim Aparo Batman. And I know that, Frank Miller knocked all those things over and redesigned the view of the character.
Right.
But for me, this was aligned with a lot of that stuff. And I really still enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I don't know. My stream yard looks like it just glitched. So am I back? All right.
No, you're back. You're good. I think I'm going a little slow too.
Okay. So one of the things that I think, I would be remiss. I think a lot of times, we've mentioned this before, when we talk about Batman Forever, people always go, oh, the Schumacher Batmans. People lump Batman Forever with Batman and Robin way too often. And it stands alone. If you look at Batman Forever separate from Batman and Robin, it is a far superior film. But it just gets lumped into it. And I'm a stand for Batman and Robin still too. Like, I still enjoy it. It's, so take it with a grain of salt. But I think very often they get lumped together, just like Batman and Batman Returns does, which for
me,
it takes away from Batman 89 a little bit, because
it should by that criteria. If you're going to lump Batman Forever and Batman and Robin together, and then you need to lump Batman Returns and Batman 89 together and give them both the same amount of grief. Because for me, there's a similarity there. I really dislike Returns, and I do feel like it is a flawed film at its core.
Yeah. But I do think, like, to see those kind of the set aesthetics, and you want to talk about the good old days when, like, I showed you my McDonald's cup, right? Like, when the promos were there, all the toys and the Happy Meal toys. And I remember walking to a movie theater and seeing all the individual character posters of each Batman and Robin, and I was just like, oh, like
Two-Face and Riddler, and
even Chase Meridian had one. Like, it was like, it was just so good. And I think that one is just it's sad that there might be a little bit of negative, was a negative taste in Val Kilmer's mouth with Batman, because of what it means to me.
Sure.
But I also get that, right? Like, it took Adam West many, many years to be okay with Batman again after it, because he felt like he was so typecast and he couldn't get out of that. And so I understand that, that pain too, of like trying to like, I'm not going to be able to get the roles I want to now because people just see me as this.
There's some great comments going on in the chat here. I didn't say hi to Christina. What is going on, Christina? Good to see you. That soundtrack was everywhere.
It was.
Sure. And if you don't know the link for the Bearded Comic Bro YouTube channel, Christina is sharing that for you all. Donnie's saying, I had the Seal 2 album on cassette because of that movie. I mean, you're not alone.
I still have that cassette.
I will say, I'm not going to say anything bad about Michelle Pfeiffer's costume and how well she did in that outfit with that whip and the stunts that she did that were not faked, the whip moves that were actually her skill with the whip, all amazing. I think that movie suffers from what I think all of these 4 films suffer from, which is really bad portrayals of these villains. Like, I'm gonna throw Jack Nicholson's Joker in there with all of the other ones and say that they are all kind of not in any way true to the actual villains in the comics. They're all way off base. Joker didn't kill Batman's parents. Penguin doesn't eat fish heads and go around with like grotesque flipper of hands. It's weird. I don't need Catwoman to have actual 9 lives and die and come back. I don't need any of this stuff. And of course, Jim Carrey is wild as the Riddler. And I don't know why Tommy Lee Jones is playing Two-Face like he's the Joker. I don't get that. There's no logic. And then, of course, we get into Arnold's Mr. Freeze, and we get into
I will say this, though.
Fuck wild.
I will say this, though. For as much grief as Batman and Robin get, those 2 villains are probably the most accurate to comic book representations of the comic villains. I'm not saying Arnold Schwarzenegger was a choice, but to have the frustrated scientist who's trying to say, like, that is 100% ripped from at least the animated series, Victor Freeze. Again, I'm not saying, but like, he does the chilling, the sound, like the ice puns in the comics with that, like in that, and then Poison Ivy being an environmentalist, basically wanting to take out the humans who are destroying that's very
getting Batman and Robin to like vie for her attentions,
yeah,
like she does in the comics in that first issue. Yeah. Of all the villains, of all the Bat villains,
I'm not putting Bane in that category. Sorry.
No, sure. Of all the villains from those 4 movies, I would say the ones that closely align to the comics most might occur in that 4th film. But I'm not saying they're all the best represent. No, they're all just. That's where I think those 4 films don't get enough grief. Is the fact that the villain portrayals are so off the mark, and they're all trying to be just who can be more over the top than the last person. It seems like a race to eat the scenery. Let's see some comments here. I mean, I get what you're saying, JP. I respect the suit. I do. Enjoyed Batman Forever on the rewatch. Tommy Lee Jones was the biggest issue with that film, and I think he's my biggest problem with that movie as well. I just don't think he's good casting, and I don't think they gave him a good direction.
Well, he eats it up where that's no other portrayal of Two-Face. Is this over the top, like, woo, right? Like, I still enjoy it though for what it is, but it, again, is not, if you're trying to go representation of the comic books, it's not.
Yeah, it just he's probably my second favorite Batman villain, and this is not it. It's just not it. And I can agree with this. The disjointed, the overly weird, and the almost, for me, it's the grotesquerie. I don't,
the biting of the guy's nose. Like, that's why I wasn't allowed to see it. Like,
it's just grotesque. Like, I don't know why they wanted it to be
the black
grotesque.
blood. Like,
yeah, yep. JP thought Catwoman's performance was perfect. I mean, I don't disagree. Was Bane accurate? I mean, maybe it's the cinematography, but Batman Forever and Batman Returns played like glorified 90s commercials. And I think there's an element of going for that look because they were trying to be true to the 60s show and give it a 90s, neon aesthetic at the same time.
But they're also doing what every single movie in the mid 90s was trying to do and sell toys. Like
Yeah.
I have all the toy lineup right there. I also have toy figures from Congo, a movie that did not need action figures. I have the toys from Waterworld, and I have the toys from Hook. Also, movies that don't need action figures, but that was the aesthetics. But I will say this too, like Batman Returns, they were doing stuff for toys too, right? Like,
Yep.
There's a Batman in Returns Robin that I own on card that was supposed to be Marlon Wayans. And when they cut his scene out of when they cut him out of the script for Batman Returns, rather than repurposing the mold, they just kept Robin with a flat top. And so Robin in the Batman Returns Robin has a flat top from what was going to be Marlon Wayans, and they just painted over it.
And that is my biggest complaint about Batman and Robin is Batgirl. That's not needed. Just not. And Alicia, come on, bad casting. Just all of it. Just
that was the issue of like completely messing up her storyline of being like the great niece of Alfred, and what makes her character really work is being the commissioner's daughter and going against what he's wanting to, and and what he's fighting against. And I think that was honestly probably one of the weaker parts of the Batman movies. You said the villains, and I'd say it almost is that they don't have the connection between Commissioner Gordon and Batman, which is so
that's fair
critical in the comics. You don't have that in the movies like you have in later ones. I also love how we've spent 30 minutes talking about Batman Forever.
I mean, look at what we're wearing. Look at the thumbnail. Look at the background for the video. I think it was kind of a guarantee that the Comic Channel would spend time on the comic book movie.
Also, I had this up on the shelf, gang.
There it is.
Looks nothing like Val Kilmer.
No, it's not designed on him at all.
No.
Well, do you think we covered that one? Do you feel comfortable with it?
I feel good about that. If you've lumped in Batman Forever with Batman and Robin, stop. Give it another watch and you'll enjoy it.
There you go. Well, let's talk 80s, because I feel like 80s, movies, Val Kilmer came on like a hurricane and had some just banger movies blowing in on the 80s. And it kicked off with 2 out and out comedies, which I never feel like he went back and did a lot of comedy later. It feels like he got known for being a dramatic actor and left comedy behind, but these are both very good, very funny movies. I'm talking about the Abrams brothers' Top Secret, which was his first movie, and he's the lead, and then Real Genius. Have you seen both of these movies? Are you a fan of these movies?
So this is one of my weak spots on Val Kilmer. I've actually never seen either one, and I was gonna go. I was gonna go back and that Real Genius and Top Secret were on. Top Secret actually is like available for like $5. So I think I'm gonna buy it and watch it after the show.
You should, yeah.
Because it looks like everything I've watched, like something I wanted to.
It's basically Airplane if they were doing like World War II movies, like The Great Escape instead.
Yeah, and Real Genius, I never got around to seeing it. Again. That would have been 85. So I maybe was born when it came out, or I was like old. And that was just one that for whatever reason, like it never was one that my family watched. And so like I never like saw it because of that. And then I don't know, by 10, 20, 20-year-old, I never went back and revisited it. So like sure. I missed that. But I want to see, they're both on my list to see, and I wanted to see before doing the show, but Real Genius wasn't streaming, and I just didn't get to Top Secret in time.
Yeah, I didn't find either one of them streaming anywhere, but I definitely love these movies. I remember seeing Top Secret as a kid, and I was into Airplane and all those kind of farce movies, and it fits in beautifully. The jokes per second. If you like Airplane or Young Frankenstein, you're going to like this movie. It keeps the jokes coming strong, and some of them are absolutely stunning, hilarious jokes. Kilmer is great he basically plays like a an Elvis style singer who's going on a USO tour of Europe in the middle of World War II. And he's got to like be a spy behind enemy lines against the Hitler regime. It's hilarious. And there are songs like there are musical sequences where he's like doing Elvis style songs. It's hilarious. And a lot of good laughs. And then Real Genius is a great comment on 80s. It's a great like 80s rom-com kind of
it's
thing.
It's like in that same wheelhouse as like Weird Science. And
yeah, for sure. And he plays the like hotshot genius at this like high prestigious tech school, but he also doesn't like conform to the typical genius. He's very much like the Animal House Van Wilder type, and he's trying to cause some chaos in and around the school. And then you have the head of the school who's trying to make money by creating weapons for the military. And his students don't know that what they're crafting will have military application. So it's a little bit about that as well. Like I'm trying to be a genius and create amazing things, but then the military application is where these things are all going to end up. And I don't know. I'm not trying to kill, some guy in a country I've never met before. So there's interesting comments on the military as well, and technology being used in unusual ways to do awful things. So great performance by again, Val Kilmer. I think really steals that movie. He's very funny in that movie, and I wish he had done more comedy. Is ultimately what I'm saying. I think he has great timing, as we see in all of his movies.
Yes,
and some of the jokes in movies like Willow or Kiss Kiss Bang Bang land because of how good his timing is.
Well, I think that I do think because, and I only say this because I'm watching that documentary. I do feel like it was very much Val Kilmer did not like that those were his first movies because he felt like he was a joke. And when he was shooting Top Secret, he was over in London. And one of the stories he tells when he was in London is he was shooting that, and he's shooting this over-the-top campy movie of Top Secret. And he goes to a theater to see, I think it was a Macbeth performance or one of these like iconic theaters. And that's where he sees an acting, and all these actors are like super brilliant actors and things like this. And he sees Joanne Wally there acting, and like that's where he first sees her.
Oh, I didn't know this.
And he kind of falls in love with him. He said he went to see that show more times than he wants to admit because it's super creepy. And then he said he even went and followed the cast from a bar once to a bar they went to after the show, and he was too afraid to talk to her.
That's funny.
And for those of you that don't know, they then were on set on Will, and they ended up being married. But eventually, I think he himself stepped away from the comedy roles when he was able to get some of those opportunities not to do it. And I think he wanted to distance himself because he was a Juilliard trained actor, and I felt like he felt it wasn't
what he should be doing.
He wasn't real acting like they were doing on the stage and stuff like that. So
that makes sense.
But
well, let's move on to Top Gun, because he obviously has two films here, and his third movie and also his final movie have this relationship, the Tom Kazansky Iceman role. Do you remember when you saw? Obviously, this is a pretty racy movie, with sex scenes and things. You probably saw this later then.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you when I saw this. I know I saw this as young when I was a kid. I mean, it's still, yes, it was racy, but like it's still PG, like, which for the 80s. I don't remember when, but I remember seeing it when I was young, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. The jets flying, the plane, I'm like, oh, this is cool. The whole Iceman, Maverick, Goose, like I like all those handles. Like I wanted to have those, relationships with my friends where we're like, yes, let's, what's up, Iceman? What's up, Goose? Like that's, you wanted to have those cool call names and stuff like that. Yeah. So I remember vividly watching it like at a friend's house in like a barn one time, like on a small TV, like just like, and like just being enamored. And I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And I've rewatched that one multiple times.
Oh, for sure.
Many a times.
Conla is saying, is anyone else listening to Danger Zone while this discussion is happening? So, like JP, I saw this in a theater. My dad took me and my brothers. I was probably 9, I guess, maybe 10 when I saw this. And, you know, I was like, there's a lot of like tongue kissing in this movie. I don't know. When are they going to get back to the Jets blowing stuff up? But yeah, great movie. Another great Kilmer performance as kind of an antagonist character, but I think
what was the Lethal Weapon? What was the Lethal Weapon like parody knockoff movie?
Hot Shots.
Was that Hot Shots where they parodied the scene from Top Gun and he's grilling an egg like on her stomach?
Yeah.
I always remember that too for whatever reason, even though it wasn't in Top Gun, but it was parodying Top Gun.
So I mean, great, absolutely. And I guess I had all the GI Joes. I had the F-14. I could reenact it myself for sure. JP, we had a very similar upbringing there. Derek says, Maverick, you can be my wingman. Bullshit, you can be mine. We got Wellbore. What's going on? Wellbore's in the chat. John, did you ride your motorcycle by Miramar? I mean, I could. I don't have a motorcycle, and I don't know that they'll let me on the base at Miramar. But I mean, those are the hurdles. What were your thoughts when bicycle? What were your thoughts when you saw the way they brought him back? Because I was really impressed with his performance
in the second movie,
the function he served in the sequel, which was ultimately his final film.
Yeah, that was also that is one of my biggest movie going regrets. I've seen the movie, so let me start with that.
Okay,
but I was so stubborn that I was like, Top Gun doesn't need a sequel. I refused to go see it in theaters.
Wow.
Because I was like, it doesn't need a sequel. People told me it was great. People I respect, I was like, no, I don't need to see this. And then I watched it because it got nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture. And so I remember watching on my screen down in my basement, which is still a nice TV, going, dang it, I dropped the ball because this is great. Like I thought it was, I've never eaten so much crow because I remember talking to people like this was like when I was doing YouTube and stuff. And I'm like, no, it doesn't need this. Like y'all are, I think Mark, Legion of Comics, like saying its praises nonstop. And I was like,
Mark, the Two Brothers Comics guys.
Dustin's, yeah. And I remember telling both.
No good comics. It's I think his like top 5 all-time movies. I know Dustin claimed it was his favorite all-time movie, like it
which
was
I
the
pushed back
movie he's ever seen. Which I ended up doing a whole Instagram story feud with him where I compared movies side by side to kind of see like.
I remember that.
What it was hilarious because some of them I was like, oh, I for sure got him, and he's like, nope, not even close.
No, but you know, so I say all that to preface, like I didn't want a sequel to Top Gun. I didn't think it needed it. I didn't think they could.
I was the same.
I didn't know how they could do it. And by the time I saw it, I had heard that Val Kilmer made an appearance.
And so you were not shocked by his appearance?
I wasn't shocked. But I was shocked as impressed, which I shouldn't have been because it's Val Kilmer, because I knew what he was going through, right? Like I knew he had the throat cancer stuff. I knew he couldn't really talk. I mean, so I posted this on Instagram. This would have been like 2019.
Oh, that's awesome. So jealous.
That my wife and I met, got to meet Val, and he had the handkerchief around his neck he couldn't talk
for the breathing. Yeah,
for the breathing.
I want to stop real quick and say hello to Dan, Comic Shop News.
What's up, Dan?
What's up, Dan? Good to see you, my buddy. How are things?
So like that was one of those scenes where I'm like, this is perfect. It's emotional. He does. They have him type the stuff he needs to type to have that relationship with Tom Cruise, with Maverick. Yeah. And, they have that emotional part of like, you're the only reason I'm here, Ice. Like you're the only one that wants me here. The Academy doesn't want me. The military doesn't, you're the only one. And, and he's having this whole struggle of like inner turmoil of like, if I send Goose's kid on this, like what's going to happen? He could die. Or if I don't let him go, he's going to resent me even more forever. And you talk about the comedic timing. You have they end the super powerful emotional scene, and Val, Iceman just looks at Maverick and goes, "So, who was the better pilot?" And Tom Cruise goes, "Listen, man, we've had such a good moment. Don't ruin it now." And I was like, it's perfect because as emotional as that was getting, right? Like that still was their relationship of always butting heads, who's the best, and they're kind of like one-upping each other all the time. And so I thought that was perfect. It was a perfect amount that I needed ice in it, and if you're gonna go out on a role as one of your last roles that you get to portray, getting to portray one of your most iconic roles, and then getting to do it in a way that in a great movie, in a way that pays great tribute to your character, top notch. Yeah.
And I love that his character fittingly is the one that rose in the ranks the most and achieved the stature that he achieved, whereas Maverick continued to kind of be in his own way and be the biggest problem and hurdle in his life. I think it's very true to the form of those characters that Maverick would need the assistance, and that Iceman would be successful and fit the military mold better and be the one to continually give that assistance.
Well, because he knew how to play the game, where Maverick always butted heads.
Well, he was. He's also the one that won the trophy at Top Gun. He was his name got put on the trophy there, and he really achieved the success, at least on paper, that Maverick was. The checks that his body can't cash.
Tacoma decided to choose violence tonight.
I'm going to scroll back up because there's a bunch of great comments. Shockingly, Wellbore fell asleep in Top Gun 2. I don't know how that's possible. That's kind of stunning to me. My dad fell asleep in Terminator 2. This feels second only to that. JP says emotional, powerful scene. Absolutely. Yep. Too good. Dan says, just got off work. Also, Top Gun 2, not as good as Batman versus Superman Snyder cut. Yes, I have to take a swing at Carlito even on this. I will not agree with this because anything Snyder is going to come a deep second to Top Gun 2. I think that's just where I'm at right now.
But we will agree with your next question. Yes, we will. And we will get to that, Dan. We will get to that.
We have not spoken about this yet. We're still kind of finishing out the 80s and Top Gun and its sequel.
We did Batman Forever, and then we're going in the 80s. So that's the only one you've missed is Batman Forever. Now you're in the 80s.
Yeah. Just got here. Heat is a bad movie. Just rewatched it last night. Kilmer was better than De Niro and Pacino. So many hot takes inside of this one little bit here. I don't know where to start, Ian. We haven't gotten to Heat yet, but
so we'll get there.
We'll get there, I suppose. Are you good with Top Gun? Should we move on to?
I'm good with Top Gun.
Let's hit his last big 80s hit, and then the rest of this show is basically going to be 90s gold here. But Willow, which I just rewatched with my girls, and I'm going to just say my favorite performance from Val Kilmer might be Mad Mardigan. And I think we were robbed of more Mad Mardigan later. I love this character. The line deliveries are phenomenal. The performance is so wild. He is Errol Flynn. He eats as Errol Flynn in this movie. The stunts, the sword play, the physicality, the movements. He crushes this movie, and the movie is full of really great performances. Like there's no, like, Kevin Pollak is phenomenal as those two guys as the brownies are amazing. Obviously Warwick Davis is the emotional core of that movie and does such a great job. That baby crushes it. That cute, adorable little redheaded baby is phenomenal. Joanne, you mentioned Joanne Whaley, so great. The witch, the woman who plays the witch, is so fantastic. But damn, he is so good as Mad Mardigan, and he earns the phrase "mad." It's just he is so wild in the decision making. When he falls in love with her in the tent, he is just great. So for me, all these great performances, something about Mad Mardigan and Val Kilmer and that era. This is the performance I think now most closely connect to him, and I wish he'd been healthy enough to give us a full Mad Mardigan in the Willow TV series, because I might have actually cared to watch it.
And you had Billy Barty in that movie too, who is also one of my favorite movies of Gwildor in Masters of the Universe.
There you go. So Willow, talk to me about your fans. How you feel about Willow?
So this is one that I'm with JP on. I remember liking it as a kid. I don't know if I've revisited since then. so to put it, like, I have vivid memories of Val Kilmer in this movie, and there's a scene that sticks out of like he does this like super badass like sword move or stuff, and then like and Will is like impressed, and then like he falls on the ice, and I'm just like comedic timing, like that is
It's so
always
good.
that's always stuck in my mind.
It's his like one of his best scenes because he had just fallen in love with Joanne in the tent because he had been hit with the fairy dust that made him fall in love with her, even though he couldn't control it. And then he chops the spike holding the tent down on top of them, and then you see him cut his way out of it, take down 3 guys, flipping swords behind his back, doing all these things. And he's like, "Wow, you are a great," because this is the first time we've seen him actually sword fight. And Willow's like, "You are great," and then he flips the sword to try to catch it, and then collapses on the ice. So good, man.
Yeah, I don't know for whatever reason why we didn't revisit this often as a kid. Like I feel like it's the same time as like Labyrinth, and like we revisited that one a lot. It wasn't anything to do with the high fantasy. Like I said, Masters of the Universe was one, and that's also very high fantasy, like in space, but like it's weird. And Will was a good movie, so I don't know like why I didn't revisit as much. I have the Willow comics.
I put it on like par with Lady Hawk, which I also really loved around the same time. As far as like fantasy that didn't feel like it was just for kids. Like it felt like it was a little freaky. I know that Colin said it freaked him out. The bad guy with the skull mask turning people into pigs. Like there was some grotesquerie to it that worked for me as a fantasy book.
Maybe that's why I blocked it out as a kid. Maybe some of those like moments like weirded me out. Especially like when people get turned into things like that always
the body horror stuff.
Do you remember the movie Witches?
Oh yeah.
That movie freaked me out because the kids turning into the mice, and then in that like scene where they're all like all these witches are in an MLM in the room, and they're selling makeup or bags or whatever you do as an MLM, and they take off their masks, and like there's the witches. Like those body transformation scenes in the 90s as good and 80s as good as they were really do freak me out. So maybe that was a little bit of it. Like I didn't want to admit it.
I would recommend people who haven't seen it in a while, if you've got Disney Plus, this is the movie I would recommend for him.
Which is what I want to, because I remember when they announced the Willow series, I was like, oh, cool. But like I never revisited the movie. So then I was like, I never visited the series. And then apparently I didn't miss anything from what everyone said, but I need to rewatch.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. I heard the TV series was not great, but I would imagine without having Mad Mardigan in there, it would be a really tough thing to recreate. Yeah. I do like that Joanne Whaley was in it. At least they brought her back, but most of that cast had either passed away or was unable to be a part of it. So you really were limited on what you could do.
Which at that point is like, are you supposed to bring it back?
I mean, maybe, I suppose. I guess I could see how Robin Hood being a bigger hit might have quieted the love for Willow, but Willow did really well. Ooh, there's a 4K. Ooh.
I might. Dan always knowing about the 4Ks coming out in the steel books.
I got to get that, and I do need to buy Lady Hawk because I don't actually own that film, and I watched it streaming a ton. I like fantasy books when I was a kid, so Lady Hawk and Willow were the most authentically fantasy films that I saw that I felt like connected to the books that I was reading.
Yeah,
and it was the only way I could see those kinds of stories on film were those two movies. There's just not a popular genre, and the movies that were made usually really sucked.
Yeah. So that's one I need to revisit, and if I had more time, I would.
Sure. Well, let's move on to the movie that was mentioned at the top of the show. Obviously, the movie as far as acting performances that I think often gets mentioned in the same breath with Val Kilmer is Jim Morrison in Oliver Stone's The Doors. Do you have any thoughts on that one? Have you seen it recently? Is it something you remember well?
I'm trying to remember. I watched it recently, and I'm trying to remember why. Was it an Oscar nominated movie?
Yeah, I mean, I know his performance was nominated. I don't know that it was nominated for Best Picture, but I don't know other than his performance for Best Actor. I don't know.
No, I don't think it was.
He didn't get nominated for Best Actor?
I don't think so. It says there's only 3 award nominations total for this movie. What? And it was the Chicago Film Critic, Moscow, and MTV Movie. Like, no. So no.
I'm stunned by that.
Yeah. So I was trying to remember, like, if I was watching it because I did recently rewatch it at some point since in the last 4 years I've watched it.
That blows my mind.
And Oliver Stone,
I could have sworn he was nominated,
not getting nominated for anything, or
wow,
this was great. I thought, like, I remember growing up, one of the things I talked about I've talked about a lot before is like growing up of sitting in my dad's study. He had, like, how I have all my books behind me. He had all his LPs behind him.
Sure.
And I remember as a kid just going into my dad, like, we had the house and my dad had like one of these like dope offices, all wood, like it's just like what you expect a big businessman. And rather than all these like books, it was LPs.
Damn.
And I remember taking them. So listen to, The Doors and Jim Croce and Smothers Brothers and all of these LPs. Like, The Doors were one that I listened to a lot. And so I remember watching this movie and just like, I was very familiar with the songs, and I always love a good, like, biop.
Sure.
And I thought, wow, Dan, I thought it was great. I thought he did a great representation of Jim Morrison. So
yeah, and I will say I probably haven't seen this movie since the 2000s began. I probably should go and rewatch it. I go hot and cold with Oliver Stone. Some of his movies I absolutely love, like Platoon and JFK. I've seen the most, and some of his movies I've seen
W
once
or
twice,
Alexander the Great,
and haven't really gone back to revisit. I do know that I was absolutely taken by the performance that Kilmer gives here. And I know that he sung all the songs in the film and absolutely like crushed it vocally for what the, what the movie was in the end. And so in that way, I was impressed.
Yeah. And this also was the beginning of the end of their marriage, because like it talked about in the documentary how much like he consumed the Doors for a year long. Like Joanna was like, all it was listening to the Doors. And it got to the point where the band even said when they watched his performances and stuff, they couldn't tell the difference sometimes, like that
who was singing and what was,
like obviously they knew because Jim Morrison was, but like they knew it wasn't him singing, but they're like, he was that close to it, which is like,
that's crazy.
That tells you the method actor that,
right?
Like Val Kilmer, that's a Juilliard coming through. That's that, like, that's what he brought to a role, whether you like the movie or not. And I know Dan said he hated the Doors movie. I'd be hard pressed because there's a lot of movies that I don't like, but I can say like that performance is great. I hated There Will Be Blood, but Daniel Day-Lewis's performance is amazing.
That's a great point. Yeah.
But I hated the movie. I thought the movie I did not like it at all, but I respect the hell out of it because of the acting of Daniel Day-Lewis. And I feel like I would imagine that should be the case for a lot of people with this, whether you don't like the movie or not. Val Kilmer brings it, and yeah.
And honestly, the singing alone should be enough to convince anybody of the time and work he put in, for sure. Should we move on a little bit? I know we've been taking a lot of time.
Oh, we're good.
Before we hit Tombstone, which I know is going to be a big chunk of the conversation here, I wanted to at least touch on the movie Thunderheart, which I feel like a lot of people haven't seen, don't know about.
I have not seen, and
it's a Western mystery. He plays an FBI agent on an Indian reservation who has a small bit of Native American heritage in his family. And so he's the one that was assigned to solve the murder because maybe he can find an in with the locals. And the problem is, obviously, he's seen as white by the locals, and clearly he's seen as a Native American by the FBI. So he's sort of straddling both sides here, and not necessarily welcomed by any. It's a mediocre mystery, but a good performance by him, an entertaining film with a very good performance by I've already forgot, Graham Greene. Sorry. Great Native American actor from Dances with Wolves and many other movies. Graham Greene has a great performance in it. But it's an entertaining movie that I think can get lost because it wasn't a mega hit and a big film in his repertoire, but it's entertaining. I don't think it's streaming anywhere. I took a look and tried to see if it was playing anywhere.
That's one I'm adding to my list that I need to watch.
I think it was supposed to be. I know Tony Hillerman, the mystery writer who wrote a lot of mysteries that took place on Indian reservations, I think he was popular at that time, and I think it's basically like in the same vein as his mystery novels, which I read when I was a kid, and I really liked his mystery. He had these two Native American police officers as his leads, and they worked the reservation whenever there was a crime. It's kind of in that vein, but
so it's the Catalyst for Scalped by Jason Aaron.
I mean, you could argue that there's definitely some connectivity there, some connected tissue. So I want to mention it.
Yeah,
small film, maybe easily overlooked. But yeah, let's get to Tombstone.
He also, real quick, he did a really good job in those brief part in True Romance as Elvis.
I didn't get to. Yeah, we just hit 1993, and he's got The Real McCoy with Kim Basinger. He's got Tombstone, and he's got True Romance where he played Elvis.
Yeah,
which is he's only in the mirror reflection.
Right, he's only as like the kind of background, the mentor of Christian Slater. But just great. So that just showed up before on my Tombstone, so that's why I brought it up before Tombstone on my list. So
talk to me about how you feel about Tombstone, because I know a lot of our chat is coming here because that's their favorite performance from our guy.
It probably is one of my favorite performances of his career. I have so many fond memories. We've talked many times about Westerns. Growing up, my mom loved Westerns. I said last, show with Gene Hackman and Morgan Freeman. I watched a lot of Westerns because of my mom.
Sure.
And we watched this VHS tape over and over again because if memory serves, there's not a lot of like nudity or raunchiness or sex. It just is the violence is why it's rated R. And in my household, Mom was cool with like you could get shot in the head, you could get run over with a car, but like if they show like a little bit of skin, it was like no. But violence, it was like go for it. And so I remember watching Tombstone when I probably should not have like been allowed to see it. There's so many quotable lines, right? There's so many quotable moments. Yeah. And to see like what he, his portrayal that he says, and like, I'm quoting the documentary a lot just because I think it shines light. Like he said, he took the role as he saw it as like a love story, basically between him and Wyatt Earp, like of like that friendship and what that meant. And, like to be dealing with, like, he was an actor who was just being great as like, just this like very confident cowboy, but also like struggling with tuberculosis and having to portray that as an actor, like alongside like being very, and just like how he would be at the card tables, how he was portraying himself as like sick and just like, ooh. I've watched this movie so many times, and don't at her because there doesn't need to. My wife goes, "Are you going to make me watch that stupid cowboy movie again?" Like that's how she refers to Tombstone.
This is the stupid cowboy movie.
This is the stupid cowboy movie that she refers to. And because I'm like, heck yeah. That might have been one of the first things she said after I was like, "Oh, Val Kilmer died." I think she goes, "Are we gonna have to watch that stupid cowboy movie?" And I was like, "Yes, we will. Yes, we will. You're gonna put some respect on it."
Rod is in the chat, and he's a big Tombstone fan. Thanks for coming by, Rod.
Think about just like the cast in that, and for like to stand out among that cast shows you the acting chops that he brought. I think that's where, because I do feel like he's been paired with a lot of great actors in a lot of his movies, but they don't always sync, right? Like Deja Vu, he's with Denzel Washington, not a great movie, right? Like, like
Ghost in the Darkness,
Michael Douglas, Island of Dr. Moreau with Marlon Brando, or right? Oof. Like there's like he's been with these legends, and I think this is where everyone brought it to the A game, right? Like, and you've got it's 11:05, so we can give it's been past an hour since we've been on stream. We can give a shout out to John Locke.
Absolutely, Terry O'Quinn. Great cameo.
we can give our lost shout out here. I love Billy Zane as a kid because of the Phantom. He's in this. Like, there's just
Billy
so
Bob
many.
Thornton, like a super early Billy Bob role when he's the one that like is the tarot dealer that Kurt Russell slaps the crap out of. He's like, you didn't do anything or just stand there and bleed. That's Billy Bob Thornton that he's slapping.
And then you have Michael
Behan, yeah.
Behan, who was Terminator in the Terminator.
Yep.
He was Kyle Reese in the Terminator, and then he was in
Yep.
Aliens. You
Yep.
know, he was this megastar, and at that point, he's like a minor role in this as Johnny Ringo, still a very important role.
But like he is the antagonist too, though.
And,
like, you know, he plays a great villain in this.
And the scenery, you know, the chewing up the scenery that Val Kilmer does, and the lines, like I don't think male white men from the ages of 30 and 40 quote many movies more than Tombstone.
It's so quotable.
It is so quotable.
I don't know if you've heard the interviews that Kurt Russell has done over the years regarding this movie. So he signed on to this movie, and he says to this day that the screenplay that he agreed to make is still the single greatest screenplay he has ever come across. And his only regret is how he didn't stand up enough when the screenplay was getting rewritten and changed day to day. And ultimately, it seems that behind the scenes, the director was struggling and so frustrated that Kurt was coming in to basically direct some of the scenes in the movie to keep the movie going. The director was having so many issues and so many frustrations, and the story was getting rewritten and stuff was getting changed. And to this day, Kurt says it's the movie he's most frustrated with because it could have been, in his opinion, you know, a Best Picture winner. Like, it could have been the greatest movie, but it got so edited through the process, and new roles and things were changed and added, and you know, the Jason Priestley storyline and some of these other things that kind of came and went. He's like, the core of that movie is still great, but it could have been the greatest. And I've heard him speak many times on his frustrations with the shoot and how hard it was and how many hats he had to end up wearing to try to get the movie done.
Yeah, that sucks, but it still is a good movie. So if it could even been better,
it basically survived the machinery of Hollywood. And came out the other side and is this iconic movie, but he's like, it's a testament to how good that screenplay was ultimately.
Yeah. Well, you know? And another fun fact about that, in the documentary, Val, he said the end scene where he's in his basically deathbed talking to Wyatt, he said he had the crew put ice on his bed and he was laying on ice so he could feel the pain and have that pain come through. And like, talk about a freaking method actor. Like, holy cow. I was like, dude, I'm like, Val, you're crazy, but I love you, man.
Wow. That's cool. And then, yeah, like you said, so many great actors. Charlton Heston with that little cameo he's got as the rancher.
Powers Booth,
so good in this. Absolutely phenomenal.
And you're not even talking about, you know, Virgil and all the other,
Sam Elliott and Bill Paxton, and so many great performances. So obviously, you know, it belongs on the Mount Rushmore of Westerns. I think certainly modern Westerns. This is the tip of the spear for the modern stuff. You got Clint Eastwood and Tombstone, and they're holding it down for everybody, you know,
because it's really hard to make a good modern Western, I think. And
I think so.
I mean, look how many we don't get. We don't get Westerns very often. You don't get Westerns in movies. You don't get Westerns in comics very often because it is a genre that is just not, I don't know if it's like not loved as much anymore. There was a time and place for it, or it just is really hard to because we can't relate to it. I don't know.
Sure.
But I feel like there has to be, because like one of the best video games was like Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2, like in the past, you know, whenever those have come out. So I think there's an audience. I just think it's really hard to do well.
Oh, sure. For sure.
Because you can't get away with like the spaghetti Westerns and stuff that some of them now. And you're like, it's tough to do.
JP says, I didn't know the Russell story, but it makes sense that with all those fantastic actors, when you get away from Wyatt and Doc, it does wander off course at times.
Yeah. I can see that.
So I think we briefly touched on True Romance. I don't know if you felt like you wanted to say
I'm
anything
okay.
more on that.
Yeah, he doesn't. It's not much in there.
It's a very minor role, but it is a lot of fun, and I do think it's worth checking out if people haven't seen it. But let's jump to Heat, because I know that Carlito would be mad at us, and several people in the chat would be mad at us if we didn't get around to Heat.
And Tacoma brought some heat by talking about his hot take.
He did. He really did. Yeah, you get Val Kilmer in a ponytail, which, you know, maybe you haven't seen. Maybe you haven't heard of that before. I do think he definitely holds his own with icons like Pacino and De Niro. I do think he brings a lot to this role of this incredibly troubled guy who is untethered in most aspects of his life outside of this incredible woman he's married. And it's a really kind of tragic performance. With that final scene for me is the best acting he does in the movie, right? He shows up, he's been shot, you're not sure if he's still alive. He shows up, he's cut his hair, you don't even recognize him from the back. You're like, that maybe that's not Val. And he turns around, she gives him the like look of like, oh, I'm so happy you're alive, but don't come up here. Like the little wave of her hand, and then he gets in the car and he drives away. It's a beautiful scene, and he does it without speaking. Ultimately, like he's really great in it. And I love his performance. He's just
it's one of the. This is what I love about Heat too. Like you have that performance of Val Kilmer, and there's that much that's laying onto it. Of, you know, like he is, you know, he's kind of the protege of Robert De Niro's character, you know, throughout the whole movie. And Robert De Niro has all these conversations with Val Kilmer about like, you got to be able to walk away. You have to be able to walk away on an instant, right? Like, and this was a big hang up, as Val's like, I can't. She is my everything. She's my world. She's my compass, right? But ultimately, Val Kilmer does walk away. And, you know, right? Like he does walk away. And what's ironic then, and what's great, I think great storytelling is De Niro, who's been hyping this up all, gets caught in his own. He gets hung up on his can't wait. He can't walk away.
I got to go back and kill the guy that hosed us.
He can't walk away. And
because if he had walked away the same way, they both would live.
They both would have been lived.
He didn't take his own advice.
He couldn't take his own advice. And I think that's a great portrayal. And maybe it's a little too on the nose for people, but I thought as storytelling, like Michael Mann, because we talked about Heat a lot when we did the Michael Mann director, I think, to get to see that. And I thought I thought Val Kilmer's performance is excellent. You could see too, because he went right from Batman Forever to shooting Heat, where you could tell he was so happy to be out of the bat suit and
let me actually perform and get into this character and do some things.
And you know, and
I get that the hype around Pacino and De Niro and the one scene that they have together, I get it. But I don't think it hurts the movie on rewatch. I think it may have hurt it in the original release when that's how they sold the movie.
Right.
But the movie is a heist movie. It's an action movie.
Because
I didn't know, and I don't think it suffers from that in rewatch.
No, and I didn't know that when I watched it for the first time, because I didn't see it when it came out, because it was an R-rated movie. I wasn't allowed to. Like, there's no way. So like
that was definitely the build up for the movie. Those that saw it in the theater, like me, everybody was like, "Oh, they're finally going to share the screen together." The two Godfathers. They shared like 4 minutes. This is going to be incredible, and the one scene is perfectly fine. It's a good scene, but I get that would be frustrating and disappointing on that in that theater if you went in looking for like these two actors going head to head, because they don't share.
This is the exact same thing of everyone. This is Tom King's Batman Catwoman wedding all over again. I missed out on the hype. So when I went and read it, I didn't care that it really didn't happen. And because I was like, it's fine. And this is the same thing. Everyone got hyped up about it. I missed that hype. So when I just got to enjoy it for what it was. And that was a good story.
Sure. Disagree with Tacoma on the quality of the movie, but for me, he more than holds his own. And I think that's what everybody's kind of saying. And even Gore Vidal. Gore, welcome. Good to see you, my friend. I appreciate you hanging out with us and being in the chat. He says, memorable Kilmer performance. It's an excellent movie. And I own it. I'm very, very entertained by it. I think it's a cinematic visual masterpiece, like a lot of Michael Mann movies, that it really has a visual language that's so fascinating and fun, kind of like The Insider or Collateral. I think it really draws you in. But the Kilmer performance might be my favorite in the movie, like of the actors in the
and
movie. The Kilmer one,
I think we've been, we can give in Tacoma a little bit of grief for not liking the movie, but he does acknowledge that like Val Kilmer's great in it. Like, and so like there's, and I will say this, like, man, kudos to you. Like, I've defended movies that I don't like or that I do like that people like on those odds, and for sometimes art just doesn't work for certain people, and there's nothing wrong with that. So like, I don't want to like harp on you for not like, how can you not think this is a great movie? It just works for me, and it seems like it works for John as well. So
and I like a good thriller heist movie. I think the heist sequences are so riveting, and again, the cast, I love a Dennis Haysbert, and his role is so tragic and great in this. There's so many performers I think give Danny Trejo, that they give little performances in this movie that really make it work. But for me, at the core of it, something about Val in this just absolutely makes it work.
I still need to. I haven't read it yet.
What's going on?
I have the novel Heat too, and I need to finish. I need to read it. So
I've never read it. Yeah,
I haven't.
New Yorker review, it's praised Kilmer, especially the shootout scene. The review made me go see the movie. There you go. I mean, obviously, Michael Mann knows how to create tension in his movies, knows how to create that sense of fear and exhilaration. I think the obviously the big heist scene at the end is incredible, but I think he builds that tension across the movie. It's a wonderful climax, but it only works because of the previous scenes of the cat and mouse game being played all the way through. Should we move on? We're into the later portion here where there's not as many great movies, but there are some great moments, performances. In 96, we get The Island of Dr. Moreau and The Ghost and the Darkness, two movies that are often like derided as lesser Kilmer and not good performances. I know The Island of Dr. Moreau shoot. They fired the filmmaker, brought in another filmmaker. I know that David Thewlis was supposed to be the lead, but in the end, the studio's like, why is this guy that we've never heard of the lead? And they kept trying to make Kilmer the lead, and they kept trying to make what's his name, Brando the lead. Right. And so the movie suffered from not knowing what it was supposed to be. And Thewlis was just caught in the middle of it because he was like trying to be the lead, but the script kept rewriting around him. In the end, Kilmer has said, I just really wanted to share time with Marlon and have conversations around the set with Marlon. The movie is a mess. It's just a freaking mess. The one moment that I like in it is when Kilmer does a Brando impression, and it's freaking hilarious because he wears the costume that Brando's been wearing all movie, and he acts as Brando, and it's almost like meta in some way. These two like method actors, and one is homaging the other in the film they're both in. It's wonderfully that's the only reason I would ever watch the movie again, is for this scene where Kilmer just gets to be, it's Kilmer. Like he's not playing a part. He's playing Kilmer.
Yeah, that's one I haven't revisited. I mean, I remember seeing this when I was younger and thinking it was a hot mess of a movie, and I was 11 or 12 because I probably saw it in theaters or right out of theaters, and I remember going like, what is going on? Like this, because I like, it would have been one right after Batman Forever, so I was like, I gotta go see Val Kilmer. Like I saw everything Val Kilmer was in for a long time because of Batman Forever. Too. And when I say everything, I mean everything, gang.
Oh, we're about to get into it here in a little bit.
But like, that was one, like, the director was getting so mad at Val because of his camera. We mentioned him always having his camera on, and he's like, he's filming like and has his camera because he's feuding with the director, and he's like, I don't feel safe, and you keep threatening to walk off, and like, so Marlon and I don't know, like, we have these two great actors, and we don't know if we're gonna have a job because you keep threatening. And it's like Tropic Thunder, like the storyline of Tropic Thunder, right? Like And that was that movie. Like, you have all these stars coming together. You have this director who's trying to like, and it
It's
didn't
a
work.
disaster. Yeah. Ghost in the Darkness. I don't know. Have you seen Ghost in the Dark? This is clearly in the Kilmer era. Have you seen some of these?
Yeah. So this is one I definitely remember seeing too. After that, also one I can't say I don't like it. So I'm not gonna like where JB says it's good. I don't care what you say. I don't remember enough. This is one I would revisit because I don't have like any knowledge of going, I don't dislike it, but I don't have any knowledge of going like, I like this. Let's watch it again. So like, so I kind of am indifferent on this because I really don't have a thought.
I will say the concept is wonderful because there is a true story behind this movie that is horrifying, that there is a ton of truth to this story. The problem is because it took place at a certain time in Africa, the legend and the real story get really muddy, and it's hard to know where truth and fiction lie in this movie. The flaws for me are Val Kilmer's Irish accent is awful. Like it is rough. Like it is Costner Robin Hood bad. Like there are moments when you're like, where did it go? Like where did the accent go? It just vanished. That bugs me. And the chemistry between Douglas and Kilmer is bad. They don't get along well. The filmmaking is strong. The tension in the drama is good. And the fights with the lions and the cat and mouse going on there is very entertaining. And I really enjoy those sequences. I think the film is poorly written. And in the end, becomes a little bit of a mess. Yeah. And that's the flaw at the end. But I don't say that it's bad. It's entertaining. And I do like Kilmer in it. I just wish if his accent had been on point all the way through, I think I would probably have praised him a little higher here. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Michael Douglas is doing in this movie. He is wrong for this part. And his chemistry proves it. They really needed a different actor in this part. I don't know if they were thinking, oh, it's like his Romancing the Stone character. We'll just bring him in and make him dress like that and make it work. It's not. This is not it. I think you put a different actor in this movie, you get a better movie, I think. Yeah. But that's me. Let's get to the one you watched. Let's talk about The Saint, man. Based on the British TV series, this man who can basically be anybody at any moment, who is the thief. He is the guy you call when you need something nicked. Let's talk about The Saint.
Oh, good old Simon Templar.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it as a kid. And I probably feel like I should not like it because it was the reason we don't get him as Batman again. Like he turned it down because he's like, I have a chance to play 20 different characters in a movie. Like that's an actor's dream. Like I can do 20 different accents, and he does, right? And I remember like it's a fun, like it's not a mystery, but it's one of those like Mission Impossible kind of things. Like, how are they going to get out of this scenario? And you know, it still holds up for me. I literally just rewatched it, and I remember this one I watched a lot on VHS. I remember my first time watching, you know, earlier watchings of seeing all the different characters. He has the one where it's bald with like the bad comb over that he talks to Elizabeth Shue in the first time, but then at the very end, he's sitting next to the detective who's hunting him the whole time. And for whatever reason, the other detective's like farther in the auditorium and is like, that's him. And she realizes he doesn't, but like, it's one of those just classic, like, and by the time he gets away, you know, and I know you made the comment of like, you can't, your biggest hang up is Elizabeth Shue
hurts me in this.
I will say
but
this,
everybody
like,
else knows what this is, and they give you Mission Impossible light here, and that works for me. Everybody else knows where they're at.
But I feel like she gives take out the idea that she's a brilliant, you know, nuclear physicist or whatever, because like that doesn't seem like it tracks. I will say this, like she holds her own as a strong character without having to play this. Like she's not supposed to be like this dominating female character in this movie. However, she holds her own in these moments of like interacting with Val, like having the beef, saving him when he falls in the river, and having those moments. And you know, she's very sexualized in this movie with that, from that aspect. And you know, rewatching this, I was like, I'm surprised my mom was cool with me watching this as much.
Yeah.
But like, because there is a lot of like
hiding notes in her bra and all that
right
stuff.
But like, I just thought like this is one of those where they're just like, Val, go and just do your thing. Like, you who do you want? What type of person do you want to portray as a character? And you get to you want to play a Fabio style character? Go for it. You want to play a nerd? Go for it. You want to play like, you know, a Russian spy? Go for it. And I think those moments work for me, and I think that adds to the fun, because it's like the whole idea of the Saint is he's someone who can be in all these different disguises and things, and you know, to showcase that. And they did it in a way that didn't feel forced. And they also did it in a way where it, like, Elizabeth, she was not dumb. Like, she doesn't like fall for it when she sees him again. Like,
she's definitely a step above Christmas Jones in the James Bond World Is Not Enough. But I just felt like she's a character that comes off really flat, considering how dynamic the villains are, how dynamic obviously Kilmer is. I want to shout out Philip Noyce, who is I think one of the most underrated directors of thriller movies. And I think, you know, his list of great movies, The Quiet American, Rabbit Proof Fence, Clear and Present Danger, Patriot Games, I think he is just one of those guys that makes good, entertaining thriller movies. And this movie fits in with his list very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
So a worthy addition to a talented filmmaker's list. And I think that's partly why the movie, I think, is as, I would say, I would even give him like most of the credit as to why this movie is as entertaining as it is Philip Noyce is a top-notch filmmaker. And this is it. So that's why, and I saw this in the theater a couple of times. Again, saw it on VHS a ton. It would have been like my first year in college. So I was like, this is my prime going to see a movie every weekend kind of days.
Yes.
And I was really enjoying it. So yeah, definitely something that's a lot of fun. And I think I saw it probably in the last couple of years.
I saw it multiple times in the theater. I saw it multiple times on rewatch. Like, it was great. And I was a little scared because, like, in my, like, you know, when I posted my remembrance, I'm like, some of it was like most iconic roles for me. I was like Batman Forever, Tombstone, and I'm like, and I said The Saint, and I'm like, I don't, you know, like when you haven't seen it in a while,
what are people gonna say? Are they gonna judge you?
Well, not even if they're gonna judge me. I'm going, I haven't seen it in a long time. I'm going, is it going to hold up for me? Because I couldn't tell you the last time I watched it, but I have vivid memories of like loving, like that opening scene, like when he's a young kid in the Catholic school and the girl falls, like that is imprinted into my mind. So like, I'm just like, do I have like this, like, and I'm like, whether I have rose tinted glasses or not, it holds up for me, and I loved it. So,
and the rewatch worked, you're saying, because you just watched it recently.
I just watched it today, this afternoon.
JP, I don't mean to compare her to Christmas Jones, except for the fact that they are gorgeous ladies playing nuclear physicists around the same time period within, like, 8 years of each other. But definitely this one is superior by a long shot, but feels connected in some ways, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel the need to go over the Prince of Egypt. Obviously, he's the voice actor in that. Do you
It's
want to
so
talk
good.
about Moses?
I will just say this.
He plays Moses, the adult version of Moses in Prince of Egypt, the animated film from DreamWorks.
That is, so it is, I want to say it's the
98.
Brenda
I think it's DreamWorks' first animated film. Before they had done Shrek and stuff.
Yes. And it's also, Brenda Chapman is one of the first, like, it's something about being a woman director. I don't know if it was Oscar. There's something, I think she's Oscar winner. She's the first Oscar. It wasn't for this movie, it was for Brave, but she became the first Oscar winner director for an animated feature.
Female for animated.
For animated. But her first attempt was at Prince of Egypt.
Nice.
I saw Prince of Egypt in theaters again 2 years ago at a con here in Columbus.
Nice.
they had Brenda Chapman. It was like the 2009. It was like the 20th anniversary or something, or 25th anniversary. You look at that cast of voice actors.
Oh my
It
gosh.
might be the most who's who of voice. Val Kilmer, Ralph Fiennes, Michelle Pfeiffer, Sandra Bullock, Jeff Goldblum, Danny Glover, Patrick Stewart, Helen Mirren, Martin Short, Steve Martin, James Avery, like, and this is before like who's who were doing the voice actors. So
yeah,
Prince of Egypt I thought was great. Because
I love all the stuff with Rafe and Val, like the brothers, is that they both bring this almost Shakespearean level of brotherly hatred to the screen.
Because you had Rafe as Ramsey as and then as his Egyptian brother, and then you had Aaron, who was his when he transplanted over there with Jeff Goldblum, and I call him Ralph and you call him Rafe. We had this conversation a couple days ago in person.
I should call him Ralph. My dad wants me to because my dad is a Ralph.
But their chemistry and I think that's where you again see their voice acting skills is just top notch.
For sure.
And that takes it out as an actor. So I don't have much to say, but I'm like, if you haven't seen Prince of Egypt because you're like, oh, it's a religious film, like it's up there with like
I would argue that
commandments, it's a worthy to watch.
And beyond that, I think it's a wonderful, like the music, like the songs are so strong. As a musical, I think it's incredibly powerful and worthy.
It's really good animation.
Yeah,
it's really good animation.
So very entertaining. And I can like hear the songs, get right back into it. So definitely worth on a musical level.
Martin Short and Steve Martin, when they go in there, they're like the charlatan kind of like guys who are like in the temple, like it's just so good.
I love the voice you bring that sound effect out.
That's how they were. It's so good. Definitely, if you haven't seen it, go see it.
Worth it. Yep. JP says just go to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and then we're all done.
Nope.
I'm gonna say I want to talk about At First Sight a little bit. Oh, did you want to talk about it too? Okay, good.
Yes, because
the only movie that I really need to talk about between Prince of Egypt and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is At First Sight.
I feel like a kid my age should not have watched as many times as I did on VHS, but I did.
It's firstly based on a true story of the doctor who helped a patient who was blind regain their sight, and the sort of love that developed between the two of them. It's very loosely based because obviously the relationship in the film and the relationship in real life don't follow the exact same track. But I do enjoy the performances in At First Sight a lot. It's a romantic comedy or romantic drama, I guess you could say. Irwin Winkler is the director. Mira Sorvino had just won the Oscar for that Woody Allen movie not too long before this. And Kilmer was obviously at the height of his I'm a great method actor. And so the two of them kind of get to do an acting romantic drama together where really they are the focus of the entire film. And the movie is built on their love story, kind of the same way, romantic films back in the 60s and 70s might have been this. This is a throwback to Love Story and Barefoot in the Park and kind of some of those romantic dramas of the earlier days. If you like a good melodrama romance, this movie works. These performers are really, really strong. They're really in their roles. There's cute little romantic comedy moments, but the core of it is love between two people that have very different worldviews and how they are managing it. I think the chemistry works. It really does work between the two actors. And I'm not claiming that it's high art, great cinema, but as far as a good romance film, if you've never seen it, it's a great date movie. Yes. The kind of date movies they don't make anymore.
No, they don't.
It's called At First Sight. And I'm glad that you wanted to talk about it too.
Yes.
Let me hear your thoughts.
This is one that I didn't rewatch it yet because I'm gonna make Stacey rewatch it with me because I know she'll enjoy it. There's no doubt in my mind, she'll enjoy it. Nathan Lane does a great job as a teacher who is trying to teach, because what I think what's so great about this movie is, you have a kid who's grown up his entire life not being able to see, and he's, his mom at one point in the movie kind of is like, he spent 8 years being poked and prodded. Like, he doesn't want to go through this. And what is her name? Mira Sorvino.
And she had just won Best Supporting Actor for a movie like I think it's called Mighty Aphrodite with Woody Allen, and like just before this movie came out.
Her character is kind of like, she falls in love with him, but wants to be like, you have an opportunity to make your life better, but doesn't understand the whole concept of like, of what it would be for someone who's always been blind, like, to, walking through a glass window, right? Like, or struggling with a picture of an apple versus an apple. Right. And like, what is that like? And to go like, you're reteaching somebody who has lived an entire life, and like, and then ultimately like trying to find the beauty in things. And as cheesy as it is, you want your spice, you want your scene when he can see. And there's a scene where she starts to undress and he's like, this is what beautiful is. Come on. Like, he sees a naked, woman for his first time. And he's like, this is beauty. Like, that's like, yeah, it's cheesy, but like, it works in this romantic movie. And it's not even a romantic comedy. Like, it's just this romantic movie, and I'm here for it. So,
I mean, the comedy is really light, but it's this human.
It's human nature. It's a slice of life. It's like dealing with the struggles that we deal with like what you would deal with coming from different worldviews and trying to understand
the right amount, right?
Yeah.
It's a dramedy in the sense that like drama first, and there's this little bit of human nature to make light of things. And I think there's a little bit of that play in there. I could have dealt with a little more comedy, but ultimately the focus is his character's journey dealing with gaining and potentially losing his sight or again the journey of that. And I think they really make it feel real.
Yeah. And I think it does a really good job of tackling that issue of trying to understand, like, very often we as humans, we try to come at it from a viewpoint of like, I know what's best for other people. And like, we don't get to see where they're coming from, where someone else might be coming from, and how people's backstory and what they've gone through in life, how that affects them, and how that, and like, so to see that and that balance. And I think Val Kilmer again gets to portray the struggle. Like, he wants to do this because who doesn't want to see, but he also wants to do this for, his love, but he also is like, he's scared because he knows what it can do. And like, there's this tension for him. And I think it's if you've slept on this because it's like, oh, it's on a romantic chick flick or whatever, like, listen, again, we're two dudes who read smut books. So like, what do we know? But we
take that for what it is. But I think it is an effective romance film. And if that's what you're looking for, I think you should consider it as an option. I think Irwin Winkler is a very talented filmmaker. If you haven't heard of him before, he worked on films like Rocky. Like, that was one of his early screenplays, early works as a filmmaker was Rocky. And I think it's worth the time to like consider that, as a producer, he's done things like Right Stuff, Rocky, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, and he's directed a few films. He won an Oscar for producing Rocky. And this is one of the few films he directed. And I think it just, it works. Kelly McGillis also, by the way, has a cameo in this.
Yeah.
So as his sister, right?
Yeah,
she plays his sister.
I think so. Yeah,
in a little while,
and she also was at Juilliard, wasn't she?
So the two of them get to reunite outside of Top Gun's world.
Well, but they also were at Juilliard before Top Gun 2, weren't they?
I wasn't aware that she was a Juilliard.
I thought maybe I think I saw that. I could be wrong. I wish I had a fact checker. We need a fact checker, but I'm going to say she was. Here. I'm going to say she was at Juilliard too.
Pacific Conservatory for Performing Arts and Juilliard. There you go. Well played. Look at the champ over there.
Let's go.
So that's the. I mean, obviously, we can get to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang next if you'd like.
You don't want to talk about Red Planet?
I mean, I don't want to talk about Red Planet or Pollock or The Missing or Wonderland or Spartan or Alexander. I can skip all of these movies, and you mentioned Deja Vu. But I ultimately
Deja Vu wasn't good either. Like,
I don't need any of it. I don't need any of it.
It should be good, but it's not. God bless. Like, this is where like it went. I think Red Planet was like the last one where it's like his last attempt at like, we're gonna get you a blockbuster headlining movie, and then it was all.
It did, yeah. So I guess we could skip all that other stuff and just go with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which again I remember seeing in the theaters. Downey Jr. fan. It was like, oh, great to see Downey Jr. back. He's making movies again. I'm a Shane Black fan, so it's exciting seeing that he's writing and directing again. I love a thriller. I love a noir. I love all of the things that this movie is about.
Yep.
And everything works really well, including the Kilmer performance as Gay Perry.
Yeah, and I forgot how good like Robert Downey as like the narrator of the story, like and telling these bits and like pausing the whole like fourth wall of the movie of like, hold on, wait, this is bad storytelling, but he's like, well, this is really what happened, so I should tell you this. Like, I know you don't want to believe this, and like the kind of like this is Robert Downey Jr. doing Deadpool before Ryan Reynolds did Deadpool in like a crime noir movie of like narrating it, and I thought like it's so good. And you want to talk about chemistry, the chemistry between Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr. here is spot on. It's so good. We talked about Val Kilmer's comedic chops, his earlier on. There's like one of my favorite scenes is they're like, he does like Robert Downey Jr. does Russian roulette. He puts a bullet in a gun and he flips it around. Then he pulls the trigger right away when they're interrogating someone. He's like, and it instantly kills the guy. And Val Kilmer's like, what are you doing? He goes, what? There's like a 1 in 8 chance. He goes, where did you do math? Like 1 in 8.
Who taught you math?
Who taught you math? And then
you put
a
live round in that gun? He's like, there was a 1 in 6 chance. Or he's like a 1 in, he goes like 1 in 8. Yeah, 1 in 8. He's like, and who taught you math? Yeah.
And then or he's like, where's my gun earlier in the movie?
The scene
and
at
like,
the
lake.
I
threw it in the lake. I threw it in the lake.
The scene at the lake when the car with the body in the back and the whole thing, and he's like, there are so many layers of like comedy in that, and physical comedy, verbal comedy. There's so many great just bits that the two. I honestly, the only thing this movie needed was more scenes with the two of them just having dialogue together, and that honestly, it's the biggest compliment I can give it is that I just wanted more. Yeah, and it works. So I'm glad to hear because I've probably rewatched it just the last year, but I don't know how recently you had rewatched it.
I hadn't. I probably had. I know I tried to rewatch it in December because Corson Benson was at a Comic-Con that I was going to get to, and I had a chance to interview him, and I just didn't because I just didn't have the time. And I went to rewatch this movie so I could do that, and it wasn't streaming. And then when it wasn't streaming again, I was like, that's why when Stacey's like, just buy it, I was like, I'm going to, because it wasn't streaming in December. In November, it's not streaming now. Like,
what the heck, man?
But like my biggest frustration with this film is like Robert Downey Jr. quotes this as like literally the movie that revitalized his career.
Okay.
Because like 2 years later, he was Iron Man. He said Jon Favreau saw him in this and like was like, and was like, yep, let's do this. And it didn't do the same for Val Kilmer, and it should have. And it's a frustrating part for me because Val Kilmer, like Robert Downey Jr. holds his own, and his character works, and like his
obviously he's the focal point, and
but it doesn't work I don't think as much if you don't have Val Kilmer's performance right alongside it. And I wanted more crime adventures with those two as partners.
Sure.
And I think that we didn't get a revitalized career out of Val Kilmer because of this movie, and we didn't get more of Robert Downey and Val Kilmer in this world.
Yeah.
It's sad.
But that's a sign of a great movie when you just want more.
Yeah.
Right. From the actors together, from the actors going on afterwards. That's a huge compliment to the film in a lot of ways.
Yeah. It's if you haven't seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, it's so good.
You got a treat ahead of you. You got something to look forward to.
You really do. And it's the over the top crime noir, and that's the basis, right? They both love him, and who was the girl, the main lead actress?
Oh God, I'm not going to remember her name. But from Mission Impossible, she's in Mission Impossible as his wife.
Yep. Great actress.
I just closed my Wikipedia window. Sorry.
Michelle Monaghan.
There it is.
Great job. But her and Robert Downey, they both love those like hard case crime file novels.
Yeah.
And they really play that up because those novels are over the top. Those are kind of really like whodunit, like an 18 different twists. And I think they play
in my case, in your case, they connected.
Right. And I think they do a really good job of playing it the way it is, right? It's not a serious movie, but it's not a complete joke. Like they really just kind of do it in stride. And I think it works really well.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it suits Shane Black's writing style, where he doesn't take anything too seriously, but understands also the emotional reality for the characters. So a movie like Lethal Weapon, which has a ton of comedy in it, is still true to what Gibson's character and Glover's character are going through in their lives. And I think there's a weight given to those characters' moments. And it's the same true for these characters here. As much as there's comedy and joking between the two of them, they understand that there are people losing their lives in the midst of this thing, and people dealing with life trauma from these things. And I don't think that stuff is skipped over. I think it's given just the right amount of weight.
I think the only thing on my rewatch where I say this with like a slight hesitation of like, I don't like, there are moments where I'm like, some of the jokes they make at Gay Perry's expense.
Got it.
I wonder if I'm like, but
is it 20 years later after, like,
it's because it is 20 years later basically. But I also go like, a lot of them were Val Kilmer portraying it and making those.
He was making jokes about himself.
Yes. And so like, I don't know if it's like, I not being in that, like, is it one of those, like,
does that make it more or less accessible or
accessible because
allowed?
It's like, it's his character,
he's a straight man playing the gay man,
right?
Too.
But if he's actually, in the betrayal, like if this is supposed to be a real life, is it one of those like, well, he can say these things, but we can't. Yeah, I don't know. Like, so like I say that with like, because there were a couple of moments like, ooh, like you can't say that, but I'm like, well, he's saying it, can he? I don't like, so like, I didn't know, but like a lot of it was like, it wasn't over the top, but like if you're sensitive to that, that would be like my only like, hey.
Well, and I think that's a hot button topic these days, as far as straight people playing gay people or gay people playing straight people. And I, recently rewatched was it Gone Girl, where Neil Patrick Harris plays a straight guy, and we were finishing How I Met Your Mother. Neil Patrick Harris being such a great performance he gives as Barney on that show, and you got the inverse here, which is Kilmer playing a gay character and doing a phenomenal job. So. I think we need to have the allowance for that to happen.
I think
an awareness of like where's the line in playing this part where you're satirizing something or are you giving it the emotional weight it should have.
Right. So
Kilted Corgi with a phenomenal name. Absolutely love it. Neil Patrick Harris breaks the ladies' hearts. I mean, NPH can just get it. He is absolutely fantastic.
NPH breaks the ladies' hearts, the fellas' hearts, everyone's hearts.
We're on the finale of How I Met Your Mother. Charlie has the only thing she has not seen are the last 2-parter finale episodes.
So, because you've watched a little bit then since I saw you.
Yeah. Okay. We try to get in a couple here and there. And she's loved it the whole way through. And Robin Williams and Birdcage.
We talked about that last episode with the Gene Hackman.
Asking Gene Hackman. Yep. So great. And so like I'm happy with what Kilmer does in that role, and I think he gives it. Honestly, he's the most together character in the movie. Everybody else is such a mess that by just comparison, he comes across as having everything together. And I think that's partly why I think the performance works and the jokes work. He's allowed to poke fun at himself because he's like, look, I'm standing next to a complete mess here. Like, I'm going to look great regardless. So I have nothing left to say as far as Kilmer, great roles and performances. Is there anything what last thoughts you want to share?
Two. it is it's not a beloved movie, but holy cow, Val Kilmer in MacGruber is hilarious to me. It's a bad movie, but it's the SNL like bad movie that I'm here for. Like,
right, and he's the villain in that one, right?
He's Dietrich von Kuntz.
Yeah.
Kuntz.
Yeah.
And like his just like, because was it Will
Forte,
you know, playing MacGruber, which is a role he was making fun of MacGyver on SNL, and they're like, let's take this like 2-minute sketch and make a full-length movie. And I don't think SNL, besides Blues Brothers, has really had a successful or a good full-length movie off of a sketch. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Night of the Roxbury, I love Ladies Man,
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World, yes, that was successful, but Coneheads wasn't, and Superstar wasn't. So
they
like
probably all make back their budget. That's the reality of why we keep getting them, or we used to get them regularly. Is the budget for those things is probably super low.
But this, to just see, like, he almost was like, Val Kilmer knew his role he had to play, like, and I think he played the villain very well. There's one of my favorite scenes. Will Forte gets all these like super, it's like an Expendables moment, right? Like he gets like all these like jacked like WWE wrestlers who are making cameos and are showing up, and is like, man, this is gonna be so good. Like he has a super team, and then like he blows them up in his van like accidentally with homemade C4. And what's great about that scene then is like 20 minutes later in the movie, Val Kilmer's like having this little like butting heads with Will Forte, you know, as a MacGruber character. And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, 2 of my guys are dead. He's like, you know what? He's like, it's crazy. I was like, we were all in this room together. I brought all my big bad villains together, and I just had some C4 I made, and it blew up. And Will Forte is like, that happened to me. Like, we're so much similar. He goes, oh wait, no, that didn't happen to me. I'm not a complete moron like you. And I'm just like, the delivery is just like so good. And I'm just like, the movie is not a good movie, but it is one of those, if you just want to shut your brain off and just laugh, it's so good. So I
no, it's a good farce, and it is it knows exactly what it's trying to do.
And I saw a thing, you know, as researching this, Val Kilmer and Will Forte became such good friends. They wanted to go on the Amazing Race together as a group, like the two of them, and both their agents were like, no, but they really wanted. I don't know if this is true, but I'm like,
hilarious.
The fact that their agents robbed me of a Will Forte and Val Kilmer on the Amazing Race, like the chemistry would have been gold.
Yeah, right.
And the only other thing I wanted to mention, just because it was brought up a lot in the documentary and it's on his list, he did his role of Mark Twain and Cinema Twain.
Sure.
It was a Broadway performance.
One-man show kind of, and he traveled around with it around the country.
Mm-hmm. And he talks about how Mark Twain was like the original stand-up comedian. And if you look at clips, if you've never seen him as Mark Twain, Google Cinema Twain, Google like YouTube, like, and I don't think there's a movie called Cinema Twain. I don't know if it's ever released anywhere, but I would say like just YouTube clips of Val Kilmer as Mark Twain and his jokes and, you know, like his delivery of like I'm like, Val Kilmer is a stand-up comedian.
Right.
And like he's in this like full-on makeup of the Mark Twain in this one scene I saw, and he's talking and he's doing crowd work, and he's like, the great questions in life and world, like why are we here, you know, or he's like, what are like some of the big great questions in life, and this lady in the crowd goes, the greatest question is like, well, why are we here? And he looks at her and he goes, because you paid $70 to see me. Like, why? I don't know. Like, you paid the money. Like, and like his delivery and his execution of, I'm like, it's so good. And it just, you know, like that MacGruber, those moments in that, like, I wish we got more of that. And I do feel like we are robbed of it because of his he got affected by his disease. I want to say in like
Sure.
2019. It was very shortly after he started doing the Mark Twain stuff, because he went to the hospital, couldn't talk, was coughing up blood, and it was basically like, we'll save your life, you might not be able to talk. And then and I just feel like, man, I think he was starting to get to his groove of doing the Mark Twain stuff, kind of finding that kind of comedy balance again. And I was just like,
and I don't know if you know the journey of that concept, because I had previously to Kilmer had seen a ton of Hal Holbrook doing this. Hal Holbrook is a great character actor. For those that don't remember him, so many movies and so many things. Most famous probably for All the President's Men. He played he played Deep Throat, the person who gives them all the information on what's happening in the government. He's the sneaky one in the underground garage, right? Great character actor. And almost his entire career, he did the same kind of thing. One-man performances as Mark Twain on stage. And at the beginning of his career, he needed a ton of makeup doing this. And at the end of the career, he needed zero makeup doing this and playing Twain. And he was known for it. And he would basically do a couple of movies and then go travel around playing Twain again, and then go back and do a few movies. And he did it his entire life. Like, he played Twain his entire life. But then towards the end of his life, doing theater on stage took a lot out of him, and he couldn't do it. And it was almost like he passed the torch to Kilmer, and Kilmer wasn't doing the same script. Kilmer had his own script and his own story that he was trying to tell, but it was very much the same concept. One man on stage reading Twain's writing, performing as Twain and doing this thing. The difference, of course, is that I think there's like a foot and height difference between Holbrook and Kilmer. Like, Kilmer was a very tall guy and Holbrook not so much. But if you can find there are YouTube videos of both of them doing Twain, and it absolutely is riveting stuff. And they're just so captivating, so entertaining. So Twain was such a great storyteller. And these two actors are so great at recreating that voice of that amazing author. So it is a very entertaining thing to see either one of them. And I think I've seen, there's like a 2 hour or an hour and a half movie of Holbrook doing Twain. And it's because he had done it for decades. The guy had just really done it. And it felt like Kilmer was trying to carry the torch and basically do the next few decades of the same thing. But sadly, we were kind of robbed of it. As Kilted Corgi is saying, we were kind of robbed of it. But both of that. So when I heard Kilmer was doing it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Because I know I had grown up through the 90s and early 2000s seeing Holbrook do it. Holbrook passed away within a couple of years of Kilmer, but had been out of acting for a while before that. Yeah.
It's
worth it. I just wanted to mention it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's worth checking out. Even if you don't see the full thing of Kilmer, go see the YouTube shorts again,
or watch Val.
They show a lot of those clips. They show a lot of those clips of him as Mark Twain and Val. For sure. And it's really good.
For sure. Yeah. Worth it, because that was one of the things that I think, unless you got to see it live in person, there was no way to capture what was going on in the stage. And he traveled all around doing it and perfecting it and changing it and adapting it. And it was really his passion project that he
because he always doing. Yeah, because he always wanted to be I feel like he always wanted to be a director. He always wanted to be a storyteller. Like, that was his thing. That's why he was always videotaping and things. And for sure, Mark Twain was this Mark Twain thing was his way to kind of get to do that. And
yeah, totally.
Wanted more.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm impressed we were just under 2 hours on our little Val Kilmer chat here, because there is just so much glory to kind of dig through here, and it's obviously very sad that we lost him so early.
Right.
As a reminder, Bearded Comic Bro link right down below, and it's in the chat. Christina dropped it earlier, so you guys can subscribe and keep going, keep that bearded comic train going, closer and closer to I don't know, glory. I don't know where that bearded train is going.
The bearded train's going of just talking to comic creators. So that's it. Like,
that's the best thing about, and I've complimented you many times on how great and how often you find these incredible comic book creators and do these great interviews with them. So it's a regular thing you can find over there if you're a new comic book day kind of fan and you're buying new books, you want to know what indies are hitting the shelves or what big creators are writing these days, drawing these days.
Every
you
Monday.
can head over to the Bearded Comic Bro YouTube channel and get those great interviews over there.
You guys
do we have Tyler Boss? What's coming up this next week?
Tyler Boss is on Monday. Artist of What's the Furthest Place from Here, 4 Kids Rob a Bank artist, does a lot of work with Matthew Rosenberg. But we talk a lot about his art process, but we really hone in on, he has a new series called You'll Do Bad Things from Image Comics. It's about a writer who wrote a novel, not a novel. He wrote a biography. He wrote a story about a serial killer called The Nursery Rhyme Killer, and talking about all of that, and it was a major success because everyone loves serial killer stuff. And it's this writer now, 10 years, doesn't want to continue to build off of the struggle,
that fame,
of basically being lifted up on the shoulders of people that have died, and especially when it was kids and things like this. And so he's trying to write a romance story, but he's killing his characters, and then it basically is one of those it's transitioning into the real world. So Tyler Boss is going from his art stuff to really getting to do his writing chops, because he does a lot of storytelling with Matthew Rosenberg. It's a lot of collaborative, but it's a really fun interview about just creative process and stuff like that.
Nice.
And there's a couple others. There's a big one that's in the works that John knows about, because we kind of talked about it a little bit at Portland, but I'm not going to say it just yet until it's officially. I will just say this: when it happens, it'll be a good one. So tune in.
You got to be subscribed. You got to hit that notification bell, so when those videos drop, you're the first in the line to go and check it out.
Yeah,
that's where it's at. As far as me, tomorrow morning, I would love to do my Saturday show, but I'm off to another volleyball tournament. So I've got all morning volleyball. I do have a ton of stuff to talk about from Portland. So Charlie and I are going to record a look back at Portland video that'll drop on Monday. She's going to share her highlights, what she bought, what she did, all the stuff that we purchased. It'll be like a little haul video. We'll share some of those things.
Guys, that's going to be an 8-hour stream. I was with John. I know what he bought.
Yeah, it's going to start with what we bought, right? That's the beginning of it. Of course, it'll share what we did, those friends that we met and the things that we did. But I'm not going to share Jen's books that I have adopted. That's a different video that I'm going to do later on. So this one's strictly, as far as the comics that I purchased, this is all that I bought as far as single issues go. Not a ton. And there's an omnibus over here.
I was going to say, there was some more spending. I was with you.
As far as single issues, that was single issues. There's trades.
I bought more comics than you this weekend.
It's possible.
No, it isn't. It is. I did.
And then I've got trades, I've got smut, I've got other things as well on top of that, all over here.
Yeah, we do.
And Charlie bought, or I should say I bought for Charlie several trades. So she's going to share all of that. That's going to be our Monday video. Charlie goes to Portland and she gets to break it all down for us.
I can't wait for that.
That's going to be a lot of fun. And then I'm going to do a Thursday response video because Reggie made a video about what makes a good comic book story. And he asked me, hey, do you want to respond to this? Here's what I was thinking about. I watched this video. I've got some ideas. So I'm going to make my response video. What makes a really good comic book story?
So Reggie's back.
He's making some videos and I want to support him a little bit. Yeah. And he was one of those guys that kind of got me going in this whole crazy thing. And so I'm going to make a response video to him. But then eventually, whether it's next Saturday morning when I can finally go live on a Saturday morning again, or somewhere in between, I will share the 3 short boxes and 1 box of trade paperbacks and the 1 statue right over here that have now arrived at my house. Everything's here. Everything's made.
Oh, it got there already. You shipped it. Yeah. So it's already there. I guess it's only going from Portland to LA.
Yeah. It made it. Everything is here. The only stuff that's not, I mean, I'll share what's for, this is for Mars. Mars is waiting for this good girl to come home.
She's also waiting for another book too.
Yeah, she's got a lot of goodies. But I'm gonna share all the stuff from Jen's collection.
I'll tease one book that Mars is getting.
Let's do it. Yes, that's in the
not
box,
this
right
one. She's not getting this one.
Not got the one I found.
Yeah,
exactly. So I'm gonna go through those short boxes and that stuff at some point down the road. The stuff that I didn't buy but have acquired. And so that's down the road. That video will be coming as well, whether it's a live stream or an edited video, that'll be coming down the road. So that's all that's coming up here on this channel. Next week, I am hosting Omni X-Men on Tuesday. So we'll be doing 2 more issues of New Mutants. And then I'm over on Magic Lasso's channel to do another Avengers versus JLA. So we'll be talking about the next 2 issues of Silver Age Team Comics. So all that stuff, that's the exciting stuff going down in and around the John's Comics with Kids YouTube channel.
When am I going to talk X-Men with you?
I think you are 3 weeks away, 4 weeks.
I was going to say it's coming up at some point.
It's coming up.
On my calendar.
It's coming up. This is my last 2 episode one. I got PJ Morris coming on to talk issues 20. It's the first appearances of Legion, the character from the TV series.
We are Legion.
So that's what I'll be doing.
What's next on the docket for Bourbon and Beards?
We got Heir of Fire. Heir of Fire is coming up next, and I am 11 chapters in on Heir of Fire. So I'm like a fifth of the way.
I gotta step it up. I'll step it up.
I know that JP has finished. I know that Alicia has basically got like 2/3 of the way through. I know our guy Paul has finished. I'm predicting this is going to be a smaller panel. I'm not going to let the whole gang in here. This might be JP's first time to join us, so we might let JP join Greg and
just
Paul
you, me, and JP.
Well, Paul has got to be there. He's the Throne of Glass champion.
Yeah.
So it might be the 4 of us.
4 of us, and because Alicia joined us of court.
Just that one court. But that's where we're at.
And
there's
stuff. Points we can spread it out. We can spread the love out.
We got to get JP in here on one of these. He's finally caught up.
JP's defense. He is caught up with us, and he is, I think, is about to surpass both of us because he's
not on ACOTAR. He's behind on ACOTAR still because he's still 2 books behind.
Okay, but he's caught up on. I thought he had caught up.
He stopped after the first 3 ACOTAR, and
so
he's
now
jumped over
he's
the
all
Throne of Glass, and he's got 3
okay.
of those under his belt.
Okay, so
yeah. And after I finish Heir of Fire, technically I've already got Assassin's Blade done as well, so I can kind of like piece that in whenever you
so I'll get Heir of Fire done quicker than you, and then I'll just go right into Assassin's Blade.
As you wish.
So that way we can go with that.
It's our what is it, Winter Solstice special.
Yeah, and then are we gonna deviate and start a new one?
Yes, we are. 4th Wing. It's right there.
I'm kind of excited to just take a breath from
a Sarah J. Maas break
and get into this other world, because this is another world of smutty, but it's with dragons. And
dragons now, which I'm down for.
Like, you're Mike Khaleesi, so like, let's do this.
So yeah, expect an Heir of Fire here in probably the next month. I'm gonna try to power through the 3rd one. I'm the one, dragon.
No, you're farther ahead of me, but I will surpass you in like 3 days. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Although I'm still off for the next 2 days. And I was off today, and I read a bunch, and I'll be at the volleyball tournament reading when she's reffing and stuff. So I'll get a fair amount done.
Wait, one of your kids is reffing?
They have to ref in between the matches that they play. That's part of the volleyball club tournament.
For like younger kids or the same age?
No, they're the line, like the corner judges.
Okay.
There's the main like one on the line on the net.
Yeah.
But then the kids are the ones doing the scoreboard, and the kids are the ones doing the corners.
I mean, I love that for them. I don't love
they
that
just
for
call
you.
in. Is all.
I don't love that for you as a parent, but I love that for them as a kid, that they get to understand the sport and get to see that.
And so the rules, and they see how hard it is to make the calls and stuff. So usually it's like they play 2 games and they ref 2 games. Usually.
Okay.
And it just means they do the lines, like in or out is basically all they call.
Okay. All right. So it sucks for you as a parent, but that's awesome.
I mean, we're just hanging out. It's part of it. It's part of it.
Really good job. Great call, Kate. Great job.
Great. Woo!
You called that line. You waved that flag up in the air. Really good. Good job. A little
She did
higher
it.
next
She
time.
did. Yeah. That flag was low, and everybody knew it. All right, gang. We're going to bounce out of here because now we added another 12 minutes to the show.
So what we do, John, John, I lived with you for 4 days. I miss you.
We did. Yeah. I miss you too, buddy. All right, everybody. Check you again soon. Have a great night.